How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm fine. How you doing, Attorney Griggs?
Doing great.
All right. We on Experience the Galaxy with Nate Campbell. Just hung up with Adrian Patrick, a lawyer from your area. Outstanding conversation we've been having thus far. We've been talking about a lot of different things. Financial stability in the black community, how we can better bolster, our communities by spending in our community among each other. But we were intrigued by the Jessie Murray murder charges that you got dismissed. And look, let's talk about some of the things you're doing. Then we're going to go right into the Jessie Murray case. Let's talk about your Twitter. Let's talk about how people can reach you, how people can contact you, your email, and I want people to have total access to you.
Okay. Yeah, everybody can reach me on any social media at Attorney Griggs. That's ATTORNEYGRIGGS, or at my office, which is www.geraldagriggs.com, or 404-633-6590. And primarily, I'm a criminal defense attorney that handles some civil rights litigation when you have issues relating to police involvement or some type of deprivation of a civil right. I've been practicing law for about 12 years. I've been blessed to handle some of the biggest cases in Atlanta, including the Atlanta cheating scandal trial, which is Georgia's longest trial. After that trial, I became very involved in civil rights as an activist. I am now the second vice president of the Atlanta chapter of the NAACP, as well as I am one of the state chairs of the Criminal Justice Committee of the state NAACP. So very active in the community. Again, was blessed to be a co-organizer of the Women's March here in Atlanta, which is the Atlanta March for Social Justice and Women. It was a sister march of the Women's March back in January. And so the march here in Atlanta was the biggest civil rights demonstration in Georgia history, bringing well over 65,000 people to the city of Atlanta as we marched through the streets to the state capitol. So just been working around issues of marginalized communities, how we can empower marginalized communities and raise our overall voice to power, both in the courts and in the halls of government, being the state legislature.
Okay, my brother, you busy. Almighty.
Yeah, try to stay busy.
Yeah, I almost asked you to borrow some money just then. He got 35, 40 jobs. God, damn. I said, and you seem to be a young fella too, man. You said I've been practicing law for 12 years. Well, how old were you when you started practicing law? 18?
I was 26 when I started practicing law.
Boy, good black don't crack, I tell you. I thought you about 20, 26, 9.
Well, some people say that's a blessing right there.
That's a blessing, man.
Hopefully I stay looking young forever.
Yeah, you keep doing these cases, you're going to be like me, gray hair. Boy, look at you. If you have any kids that go to college, all that's going to change. I'm going to tell you right now. Especially if they're daughters.
Yeah, I got a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
I got a 9-year-old right now, so yeah, I can imagine it in 9 more years.
You got a daughter, right?
Yes, she's 9.
Oh, Lord. Hold on one moment. Father, in Jesus' name. Father, in Jesus. Whenever a brother tell me he got a daughter, I feel sorry for him because I got 3 daughters, 27, 25, and 23. So, yeah, feel me.
So they already knocking down your door, so you already got it.
First of all,
to make sure, because
I don't know if you understand this, Jerry. I still fight. I fight real good. I fight real good. I'm be honest with you. My daughter got married some years back, and I love my son-in-law. I love him to death. And they got married at their grandmother's house. They didn't want to have a big wedding. I was all happy about that. I mean, I have to pay for it. You know what I'm saying? They was like, we going to have a wedding in the house, Daddy, because we just want to get married. I'm like, y'all seem like y'all in love. And I shook his hand, and I whispered in his ear, don't make me kill you, okay? All right? Y'all going to be happy now.
Trust me, I know that feeling.
Don't make me hide your body in pieces, all right? I was going to be needing some help. But you know what? to take this to have this conversation. We have to have this conversation about this. I'm looking at the Jessie Murray case. It should have been an open and shut case of, stand your ground.
Self-defense, I think.
Stand your ground. Self-defense, however you look at it. But what happened was his defense was hampered because he was about 5-6 shades the other way. And I don't care what they say. That's what it is. I did the reading on it. And this case puts me in the mind of, Philando Castillo. Look at how they beat this brother. I'm looking at the pictures of how they beat this brother and cut over his eye. That looked like he got hit with a left hook. And I know a left hook when I see one. And I look at this. I look at Philando Castillo dead in the car on camera. He didn't pull a gun. He didn't break any laws. He told you he had the gun. Where is the NRA for black people? When the black man is killed with a gun that he legally owns and he has a license to carry that gun, where is the NRA? I want to ask that question, but I want to ask you, what were the issues that you came up against in this case?
Well, I mean, the first issue was, when Mr. Murray was first approached by police and actually arrested, he told the police, he waited for the police, told them what happened. He told them about the 2 prior physical altercations that had happened with this group of inebriated men, and he was actually assaulted in front of the police while he was being arrested. He
was handcuffed, right, when they did it? When the guy punched him?
Exactly. He was handcuffed when they punched him, and he told them that they had fired shots at him. So the biggest issue I see at that point was why everybody was not arrested. Because, clearly he was never the aggressor in any of it. So, if you come to the scene and you discover somebody that's deceased, and there was reports of an altercation on 2 prior occasions and shots fired, and somebody gets hit in your custody, I think you got 4 or 5 people going to jail instead of 1. But that's the first thing. The second thing, it turned out during the evidence that the investigating officer knew the deceased, had worked with him before in his law enforcement capacity, so there were some issues there. But it just compounded as it went through the court system. It was clearly a case of self-defense. He was going back into the bar after being beaten up the first time to try to get his wife out of harm's way, and they stopped him at the entrance, and then they severely assaulted him. And thus the gun went off during the struggle, and unfortunately the other person, Mr. Allen, was struck and killed. And so once you got to the actual criminal process, the actual prosecutor had an opportunity at that point to dismiss it without even having to have a stand your ground hearing or a self-defense immunity hearing. They had the immunity hearing. The judge determined that because the allegation was a shooting was an accident, stand your ground did not apply.
Yeah, okay.
Reading of the
Mr. Griggs, I got to stop you right there, because I read 2 or 3 different articles now, and after I digested it, it became clear to me that if your client, now correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm way off, because I don't know Georgia law and I'm not an attorney, but if your client had gone back in to get his wife, and he'd given the appearance that he was afraid for his life and had pulled out the gun and shot the man who was charging him or whoever these guys were, then that would have been a clear basis for stand your ground. But because he didn't pull the gun, the judge is saying he wasn't that scared. I read the not the transcript or anything. I'm just reading what the article said. Mm-hmm. It said he wasn't scared enough, so therefore stand your ground doesn't apply. Is that correct?
And that's the judge's interpretation. That's not my interpretation of the law. And having, like I said, tried numerous cases involving stand your ground in the 12 years I've been practicing law, the law actually says you can either use or threaten to use force necessary to either defend oneself or another person. So it's irrelevant whether or not Mr. Murray was in fact afraid. If his wife was afraid,
that's all that matters.
And he just even threatened to use the force. He didn't even have to use the force.
But come on.
He would have been immune from prosecution. So I again respectfully disagree with the judge's ruling. And had we lost, I'm sure it would have been overturned by the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court of Georgia.
Well, let me ask you this:
we didn't even have to get. We didn't.
In the George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. So George Zimmerman it wasn't anything even similar to that. He walked out to confront Trayvon Martin with the gun on him.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
So if this had been in whatever this town was, what was the name of this town? It was Hapeville, Georgia,
Yeah.
which should be Hateville, Georgia, but Hapeville, Georgia. If George Zimmerman had come out to confront Trayvon Martin in his front yard and had the gun in his pocket and they'd gotten into the scuffle that they'd gotten into and George Zimmerman didn't pull the gun out and the gun went off and shot Trayvon Martin, are you telling me that this judge would have said the same thing? He would have said,
"Oh no."
He would have said, "It's not stand your ground," because he wasn't scared. He didn't pull the gun out.
Hold on. Let me.
There's no way.
Hold on. Attorney Griggs. John, you having a white guy thought process here.
I know. I'm just trying to walk the white guy process through to the point.
You can't, but you gotta have Negro processing.
No. I'm bringing you to that, Nate.
Okay. Ain't no way in hell they would have ever deemed this any other thing other than something. You know what I'm saying? Something that is criminal for the black man. There was no way this case wasn't going to court. There was no way they weren't going to railroad this guy. There was no way this guy wasn't going to stand trial. And at best, he was going to get life. That's what they wanted.
It was 55 years, wasn't it?
That's life, brother.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Well, life plus it would have been life plus 25. So yeah, 55 years.
So listen to me. He was going to die in prison if they had something to say about it. So listen, I keep having this conversation with and I keep asking the question, whether hell is the National Rifle, not the NRA. Where are they?
Apparently, they don't have a chapter in Hapeville, Georgia.
Well, no, none of their chapters. They got. Wait a minute. What about?
Well, first off, they had the convention here this year.
Thank you.
The National Rifle Association had a convention here a month and a half ago, where they were talking about campus carry, which passed in Georgia, and they were talking about Second Amendment rights. But just down the street, no more than 15 miles away, was this trial about to begin, and no mention by the National Rifle Association. Like there was no mention of Philando Castile. But 2 days ago, they released a video that basically said the peaceful protesters are making all kinds of trouble for the police and the real Americans, and you need to join the National Rifle Association so you can protect yourself. Right. So here's my question. Mm-hmm.
And I need to ask you this question to be honest with me. Do you truly believe that it's that if this black man was white, this trial would ever happen?
I mean, based on my experience and training, I'm gonna answer the question like police officers. Based on my experience and training, it would have never gone this far.
He would never. They wouldn't have took him away from their handcuffs. They'd have took them other guys to jail. I'm gonna give you one even better. Zimmerman wasn't even arrested when he shot Trayvon. They had to go and get this cat. He went home. Trayvon went to the morgue.
No, I know.
So I'm just old. You know what I'm saying? Retired pro boxer who believes that a good ass whipping will make you remember not to bother somebody next time. And I just believe that. But the problem is, if I say that and it's a white guy I'm talking about, I'm vilified. It's because these white guys were dead ass wrong. Dead wrong. And I can guarantee you the stress of this trial. You say, and I keep reading ex-wife in this thing. He was married at the time, right?
Yes, he was.
He and his wife have since gone through a divorce, right?
Yes, they have.
If you don't believe this was a factor in this man's divorce, you cockeyed, blind, and retarded.
I'm sure that's what happened.
I'm sure that this had something to do, in some way, shape, form, or fashion. This man's life has been uprooted and changed. Totally changed from what it was.
Why didn't these guys get charged? And forget the racism answer and all that. Clearly, it's a blue, white, whatever relationship they have. But isn't there like an internal affairs investigation or something that goes on when this guy? Okay, so we got a picture of your client.